The war for Earth? What if Earth is not simply being watched? What if it is being fought over? For decades, a strange story has been circulating through UFO communities, extraterrestrial theories, and spiritual movements. According to these claims, humanity may not be alone, and the story becomes even stranger when three names repeatedly appear: the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, and the Andromedans. They are said to be ancient extraterrestrial civilizations, each with their own history, technology, and relationship with humanity. Some stories describe the Pleiadians as peaceful beings who want to guide humanity. The Arcturians are often portrayed as highly advanced beings connected to technology, consciousness, and interdimensional knowledge. And the Andromedans are sometimes described as an ancient civilization involved in conflicts far beyond our solar system. But then comes the disturbing part. Some extraterrestrial narratives claim that these civilizations do not always agree, and Earth may be somewhere in the middle. But is there really a cosmic conflict over our planet? Or are we looking at something else? A modern mythology created from UFO encounters, channeling, science fiction, and spiritual beliefs? Tonight, we're going to follow the story from the beginning. First, we listen to the story, and then we find out what is actually behind it. Why would anyone want Earth? Why would an extraterrestrial civilization even care about Earth? From a scientific perspective, there's currently no evidence that an alien civilization is fighting over our planet. But in extraterrestrial mythology, Earth is described very differently. Some alleged contact narratives portray humanity as a civilization standing at a critical crossroads, a species with extraordinary technological potential, but one that is still divided by war, politics, resources, and ideology. We have learned how to split the atom. We have sent machines to other planets. We have created artificial intelligence. And we have transformed the surface of our planet on an enormous scale. But at the same time, humanity continues to struggle with conflict, inequality, environmental destruction, and the threat of war. So imagine looking at Earth from the perspective of an advanced civilization. What would they see? A primitive planet? A dangerous civilization? A species still learning how to control its own technology? Or perhaps something far more valuable? This is where the extraterrestrial story begins. Because if advanced civilizations really existed somewhere in a galaxy, Earth might not be important because of what it has. It might be important because of what humanity could become. The Pleiadians. The first group is perhaps the most famous. The Pleiadians. Their name comes from the Pleiades star cluster, one of the most recognizable groups of stars in the night sky. The Pleiades can be seen with the naked eye from Earth, and the cluster has been known to human civilizations for thousands of years. But the modern idea of Pleiadian extraterrestrials comes from somewhere very different. It comes largely from UFO contactee traditions and modern spiritual movements. In these stories, Pleiadians are often described as humanoid beings. They are usually portrayed as peaceful, highly evolved, and deeply concerned about humanity. Some accounts claim that they are watching Earth. Others say that they are trying to guide humanity toward a higher level of consciousness. And some stories suggest that they have been interacting with humans for far longer than we realize. But there's a problem. None of these claims have been scientifically verified. There is no confirmed evidence that a civilization of humanoid beings exists on the Pleiades. In fact, the real Pleiades star cluster is relatively young on astronomical timescales. So the Pleiadian story exists in a fascinating space, somewhere between UFO mythology, spirituality, and the human desire to believe that we are being guided by something greater. But if the Pleiadians are supposedly here to help humanity, then another question naturally follows. Who exactly are they trying to protect us from? The Arcturians. Then we encounter another name, the Arcturians. Arcturus is a real star. It is one of the brightest stars visible from Earth, located approximately 36 light years away. But the story surrounding the Arcturians goes far beyond astronomy. In modern extraterrestrial mythology, Arcturians are often described as an extremely advanced civilization. Unlike the peaceful and almost human-like image associated with the Pleiadians, Arcturians are frequently portrayed as something more mysterious. They are said to possess extraordinary technology, advanced spacecraft, knowledge of energy, and, in some accounts, an understanding of dimensions beyond ordinary human perception. Some spiritual traditions describe them as beings who exist at higher levels of consciousness. Others portray them as guardians, watching civilizations throughout the galaxy. And some stories even claim that they are involved in protecting Earth from hostile extraterrestrial forces. But again, we need to separate the story from the evidence. Arcturus is real. The star is real. The astronomical system is real. But there's currently no scientific evidence confirming that an advanced extraterrestrial civilization lives there. And this distinction is critical, because throughout our story, real astronomical objects repeatedly become connected to extraordinary claims. A real star becomes the home of an alien civilization. A real galaxy becomes the origin of an ancient species. And eventually, a mythology begins to look like a map of the universe. The Andromedans. And then there are the Andromedans. Their name is connected to one of the most spectacular objects in the night sky, the Andromeda Galaxy. Also known as Messier 31, Andromeda is a massive galaxy located approximately 2.5 million light-years from Earth. It contains an enormous number of stars and billions of possible planetary systems. But in extraterrestrial mythology, the word Andromedan has taken on a very different meaning. Some accounts describe the Andromedans as an ancient extraterrestrial civilization. They are sometimes portrayed as technologically advanced, highly intelligent, and involved in conflicts that extend across multiple star systems. In some stories, they are allies of humanity. In others, they are described as neutral observers. And some narratives go even further. They claim that Andromedan civilizations have been involved in a much larger galactic conflict, one that humanity may not even understand. According to these stories, Earth is not an isolated planet. It is part of a much larger struggle, a struggle involving civilizations that may be thousands, or even millions, of years ahead of us. But once again, there is no verified scientific evidence confirming these claims. The Andromeda Galaxy is real. The possibility of life elsewhere in the universe is scientifically reasonable. But an Andromedan civilization interacting with Earth remains unproven. And this is where the story becomes much darker. Because if these three civilizations really existed, what would happen if they wanted completely different things from humanity? The three-way conflict. Imagine three civilizations looking at the same planet. One wants humanity to evolve. Another wants to prevent dangerous technology from falling into the wrong hands. And another wants humanity to remain completely free. At first, their goals might seem compatible. But what if they aren't? What if one civilization believes humanity needs guidance, while another believes humanity must be left alone? What if one group believes Earth is ready for contact, while another believes humanity is still too dangerous? And what if all three have completely different ideas about what humanity should become? If these stories were true, Earth would not necessarily be the battlefield. It could be the prize. A planet occupied by a young technological civilization, surrounded by billions of stars, and standing at the beginning of its own cosmic future. But there's one enormous problem with this theory. We have no verified evidence of a war between Pleiadians, Arcturians, and Andromedans. No confirmed extraterrestrial spacecraft. No independently authenticated communication. No verified alien message. And no astronomical observation demonstrating that extraterrestrial fleets are surrounding Earth. So, where did this story come from? Why do so many different extraterrestrial narratives describe alliances, conflicts, councils, and civilizations? And why does humanity keep creating stories about beings from the stars? Perhaps the answer has less to do with aliens and much more to do with us. The darker possibility, perhaps the most disturbing possibility, isn't that extraterrestrials are fighting over Earth. Perhaps humans created the entire war. Think about how these stories develop. A UFO sighting becomes an encounter becomes a message becomes a belief, and eventually, different beliefs begin connecting with one another. One civilization becomes the good guys, another becomes the guardians, another becomes the mysterious outsiders. Then come the alliances, the enemies, the galactic councils, the ancient wars, the secret missions, and eventually, an entire cosmic political system appears. The problem is that none of this necessarily requires extraterrestrials. Human beings have always created stories to explain the unknown. Ancient civilizations looked at the sky and imagined gods. Later generations imagined angels. Modern society imagines extraterrestrial civilizations. The characters change, but the question remains the same. What exists beyond us? And perhaps this is why extraterrestrial mythology can become so powerful. Because it doesn't only tell us about aliens. It tells us what we hope for, what we fear, and what we believe humanity could become. The more often a story is repeated, the more real it can begin to feel. But repetition is not evidence, and belief is not proof. But what if something real is behind it? But let's not dismiss the entire mystery too quickly, because there is one question science genuinely cannot answer yet. Are we alone? We now know that planets are extremely common throughout the universe. Astronomers have discovered thousands of planets beyond our solar system. Some orbit their stars at distances where temperatures could potentially allow liquid water. We also know that the chemical ingredients associated with life exist throughout the cosmos. Organic molecules have been found in meteorites. Complex chemistry exists in interstellar space, and water is present in many places beyond Earth. None of this proves extraterrestrial life, and it certainly does not prove the existence of Pleiadians, Arcturians, or Andromedans. But it tells us something important. Earth is not the only place where the basic ingredients for life exist. The universe contains an unimaginable number of stars, and around many of those stars, there are planets. Some of them may have conditions that we haven't even begun to understand. So perhaps the real mystery isn't whether the Pleiadians are coming, or whether the Arcturians are watching us, or whether the Andromedans are preparing for some kind of cosmic conflict. Perhaps the deeper question is much simpler. If life emerged here, could it have emerged somewhere else? And if it did, how different would that civilization be from us? Would they see humanity as primitive, dangerous, interesting? Or perhaps, would they be asking the exact same question about us? So, is there really a war for Earth? Right now, we don't have evidence that there is. The Pleiadians, Arcturians, and Andromedans remain part of modern UFO and extraterrestrial mythology rather than established science. Their stories are fascinating. Their origins are complex, and some of the ideas surrounding them are deeply mysterious. But we should never confuse a compelling story with verified evidence. At the same time, we should remember that science has not answered one of humanity's oldest questions. Are we alone? Maybe one day we will detect a signal from another civilization. Maybe we will discover microbial life somewhere in our own solar system. Maybe we will find evidence that intelligent life exists around another star. Or perhaps we will discover something completely unexpected. Until then, the stories of Pleiadians, Arcturians, and Andromedans remain exactly that, stories. But stories can still reveal something fascinating. They reveal our desire to understand the universe, and our fear that we may not be in control of our own future. For thousands of years, humanity has looked into the night sky and wondered what is looking back. Maybe someday, we will finally find out. But until that day, one question remains. If someone really is watching Earth, what are they waiting for? This is the Crystal Mind. We first listen to the story. Then, we discover what is really behind it.